They never saw me coming, because they never looked in the first place. My name's Daniel Price, Jr., barely average GPA, skinny, muted colors. Easy to forget. I was the kid who got bumped in the hallway and said sorry. The one who always sat near the back. The one teachers forgot to call on because I never raised my hand. The one they laughed at when I stuttered in 7th grade and never spoke again in class. And because I never spoke, they filled in the silence for me. Creepy, dead eyes. Probably a school shooter. That one stuck. I remember the first time I heard it. Cafeteria, plastic tray in hand. Looking for an empty seat. Whispers behind me. You sit next to Daniel and you disappear. That's what happens to ghosts. I wasn't violent. I wasn't broken. I was just fading. And they loved to watch me fade until I snapped. Not with fists, not with a scream, but with something they weren't prepared for. A voice. My voice. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to the days that led up to that day. The week everything boiled over. When being invisible wasn't safe anymore. And when silence stopped being my shield and became a weapon. I didn't mean for anyone to read it. It was mine. Not a diary, not a manifesto. Just observations. Every day after school, I'd sit in the back corner of the library, earbuds and pretending to listen to music. But really I watched and wrote. Not because I was creepy, but because watching was safer than speaking. Writing gave me power when I felt powerless. Page 3. Kenzie lies about her test scores. She's smart, but pretends to be dumb to fit in. Page 11. Jake flinches every time someone raises a hand near him. Probably something at home. Page 19. Sarah's smile disappears the second she thinks no one's looking. I never planned to use it. I never even reread it. It was just where I put the pieces I couldn't say out loud. But then on a Thursday morning it slipped out of my backpack. In the hallway, right outside room 308. I didn't realize until second period. By then it was gone, and I felt sick. Like someone had ripped out a piece of my brain and handed it to people who'd never cared about it before. By lunch I knew something was wrong. People were whispering, but not about me the way they usually did. They looked scared. Not of me, of each other. Someone had read it. More than one, probably. Pages had been photographed. Snippets sent through Snapchat and Discord. I heard the word notebook passed like a secret. I heard my name. By 6th period, I was called to the office. Mrs. Carmichael, our counselor, sat with my notebook in her lap like it was radioactive. Daniel, can you explain this? It's just notes. Some of these entries are disturbing. You write that people lie, that they hurt, that they flinch. Because they do, I just noticed. Why would you write all this down? Because no one else does. They didn't suspend me. They didn't punish me. But they sent a letter to my parents, suggested evaluation, offered mental health support. But no one asked the real question. Why did I know all that? Because they didn't care about truth. They only cared that I said it out loud, even if it was in a notebook. That weekend the texts started. Some were scared. You watching me too. Some were cruel. Stalker freak. Bet you write about your classmates like you're God. And then one was different. From a blocked number. You know more than you should. You better shut up before we make you. For the first time, they weren't ignoring me. They were watching me back. But what they didn't know was, I'd already written everything they were afraid of. And now maybe it was time to say it out loud. It was supposed to be just another forced feel-good event. Kindness Week, a school-wide assembly in the gym, fold-out chairs, buzzing microphones, posters that read, "Be the nice you want to see in the world," fake smiles, forced claps, admin-approved speakers. I sat in the back, of course, like always, invisible, but not anymore by accident, this time by choice, because something inside me was burning. They called it healing, but they weren't interested in truth. They just wanted quiet. They wanted to sweep my notebook under the rug with glitter and pastel words. First, the principal spoke, talked about community, about rebuilding trust. Then the student body president got up, talked about moving forward. They thanked the staff for addressing the incident promptly. They never said my name, never even looked at me, but everyone else did. whispers, side glances, tension like electricity, and then I stood up. No one called me. No one expected me. I just walked. Down the side aisle, up the stairs, straight to the microphone. Gasps. A teacher stepped forward like he might stop me. He didn't. No one moved. I took the mic and said quietly at first, I wasn't going to say anything. You didn't want me to. You wanted me quiet. Silence. You could hear the breath catch in 600 people's lungs. I continued, but if you're going to talk about kindness, talk about the hallway slurs that go unchecked. Talk about how it's easier to call someone creepy than ask if they're okay. Talk about teachers who look away when someone's pushed into a locker because it's easier than writing a report. Now their silence wasn't awkward. It was exposed. Like I had turned the gym into a courtroom, and no one could leave the stand. You didn't like my notebook, I said. Not because it was wrong, but because it was right. Because I wrote what you were too scared to say out loud. Because it's easier to call someone dangerous than admit you made them feel like they didn't exist. No applause, no cheers, just truth hanging heavy in the air. Raw, undeniable. I didn't wait for permission. I stepped back, left the stage, walked out of the gym. No one followed me, at least not at first. But that afternoon, I got a note in my locker, folded 4 times. No name. Inside it said, you weren't wrong. You just said it too well. That night, for the first time in years, I slept without feeling like a ghost. Because now, they saw me, even if they didn't like what they saw. The video of my speech hit social media before I even got home. Someone had filmed the whole thing from the 3rd row, posted it with the caption, when the quiet kid finally speaks and destroys everyone. It went viral, locally at least. Thousands of views overnight. Hundreds of comments. And more importantly, reactions, but not the kind I expected. The next day, the school hallways felt weird, not hostile, not warm, just performative. Like everyone had suddenly remembered what empathy looked like and decided to act it out. People who had ignored me for years now gave me awkward half-smiles. A few even said, hey man, that speech, that was brave. Brave. Funny how brave just means you said something I didn't want to deal with. But now I can't avoid it. Then came the posts. On Instagram, on TikTok, on the school subreddit. Kenzie, the one I'd written about hiding her intelligence, posted a black and white selfie with the caption, we never know what battles people are facing. I'm learning to do better. Kindness matters. Jake, the kid who used to laugh when I dropped my books, posted a 2-minute video about toxic masculinity and mental health. Sarah, who once taped a loser sign to my back in freshman year, wrote, sometimes silence is the loudest cry for help. Proud of our students for speaking out. None of them tagged me. None of them messaged me. None of them said, I hurt you. Because it wasn't about me. It was about them, their guilt, their image, their need to be seen as better people now that the spotlight was on. I walked past Sarah in the hallway. She looked up from her phone. Hey, you doing okay? Her tone was light, safe, rehearsed. I just stared, then said, do you even remember what you did to me? She blinked, paused. I mean, if I ever said anything, it wasn't personal. That's the problem, I said. None of it ever was. But it still cut. And I walked away. Later that day, I opened my locker and found another note. This one was different. No glitter, no hashtags. Just a ripped notebook page, written in pencil. You said what I couldn't. I've been watching too. You're not alone. I didn't know who sent it, but I folded it, kept it in my wallet, because that felt real. Not a performance, not a brand, just truth. That night I sat at my desk and opened a new notebook. Page 1. What comes after the truth? Justice. Change. More silence. I didn't know, but I was going to find out, because I wasn't done. This wasn't just about a notebook or a speech. This was about building something bigger, and I had a plan. The idea came to me during lunch. I was sitting alone, same spot, as always, corner table near the vending machines. But this time I wasn't trying to disappear. I was watching on purpose, and I saw it. People still walking alone, still pretending to scroll. still wearing invisible armor just to survive third period. The world hadn't changed. My speech didn't fix anything. It just lit the match. So I grabbed a sheet of printer paper and wrote 2 words, unseen. Underneath it, I added a space for the unheard, the invisible, the ones who've watched quietly for too long. No judgment, no fixing, just truth. And then the meeting time. Tuesdays, room 107, after school. I printed 10 copies, taped them up around school. Library, back hallway, stairwell landing near the science wing. The first Tuesday came. I sat in room 107. Lights dimmed, chairs in a circle, no desks, no expectations, and no one came. I waited 30 minutes, pretended to read a book, tried not to feel stupid. But then, as I packed up, I heard the door creak. A girl stood in the doorway, a hoodie over her head, face mostly hidden. I recognized her. Emily Chen, barely spoke in class. Always sat near the door like she was ready to leave before she even entered. She didn't say anything, just looked at me, then the empty chair. Is this the thing she asked? Yeah. Anyone else coming? Not yet. She nodded once, sat down, didn't speak for the next 10 minutes. Neither did I, but she stayed, and that was enough. The next week, 2 more people showed up, then 5, then 10. By the 5th week, room 107 was full. We didn't call it therapy, didn't call it healing. We just called it what it was, real. Sometimes people cried. Sometimes they just sat. Sometimes they said things they'd never dared say, even to themselves. My mom doesn't know I stopped eating. I haven't felt happy since 6th grade. I wear long sleeves for a reason, and I don't owe you the reason. And we listened. That was the rule. No fixing, no judging, just listen. Then one day, someone I still don't know who printed a photo from the first meeting. Just me and Emily sitting across from each other. No words, just chairs. They taped it to the main hallway bulletin board and wrote beneath it, sometimes it only takes 1 chair to start a circle. By the next morning, people were posting sticky notes around it. Yellow, pink, blue. Each one a confession or a truth. I'm scared to go home. I haven't felt like myself in months. I'm still here. It became a wall of echoes. Things people never thought they could say out loud. No, they weren't saying them alone. And that's when I knew. My notebook used to be a shield. But this was something more. It was a door. It happened after 7th period on a Wednesday. The hallway was thinning out. Students peeling away like paper scraps in the wind. I was at my locker grabbing my bag when I heard, "Daniel." I turned. It was Mr. Reeves, history teacher, monotone, hard to read, the kind who graded fast but never made eye contact. He gestured toward his classroom. "Got a minute?" I hesitated. "I'm not in trouble," he added. I followed him inside. He didn't sit behind his desk, just leaned against it, arms crossed, eyes softer than I'd ever seen. "This club, unseen. It's not official," I said quickly. "No funding, no staff sponsor. Just a room and some chairs." He nodded. "I'm not here to shut it down." He paused. Then, "I want to know, why did you start it?" I didn't have an answer rehearsed, because no one had ever asked me that question. People assumed it was revenge, or a cry for help, or an attention stunt. But the truth, it wasn't about them at all. So I said the name, out loud, for the first time in 2 years. Logan. Mr. Reeves frowned. Logan Michaels. He used to sit in the back with me. Freshman year, before. He stopped showing up. Reeves blinked. I could tell he was digging in his memory, but nothing surfaced. Skinny. Long sleeves even in summer. Mumbled a lot. Drew on his arms. Still nothing. And that hurt more than I expected. He wasn't loud, I continued. Didn't make waves. Teachers barely knew his name. But I did. I looked at the window. Outside, students laughed, wrestled with backpacks, made weekend plans. And I said, he was the first person to ask me why I always walked the long way to class. First person to say, "You okay?" and mean it. Then one day he wasn't at school. Then 2. Then 5. And then I swallowed. He was gone. Mr. Reeves shifted, suddenly very still. Gone how? Didn't transfer, didn't move, didn't survive. The words felt like glass in my mouth. He took his own life. Silence. No inspirational quote. No I'm sorry with a teacher voice. Just quiet. And I needed that. I started the notebook after that, I said. I wrote down everything I missed about him. The signs, the patterns, the things I thought were just quirks, but were actually calls for help. Then I kept writing. About others. About everyone. Because I didn't want to miss someone again. Mr. Reeves looked older suddenly. Not in a weak way, in a real way. Like he was carrying the weight of 100 names he should have remembered. He finally spoke. Thank you for not letting him disappear. I blinked. That was it. No speech. Just acknowledgement. He reached into his desk, pulled out a key. You ever need room 214, my classroom after hours? It's yours. I didn't take the key right away. Just looked at it. Because sometimes being seen isn't about applause. It's about someone remembering the name you were too scared to say. I whispered. His name was Logan. He liked sour candy and wrote poetry on receipt paper. He didn't want to die. He just didn't think staying made a difference. I took the key, put it in my pocket, and walked out knowing this wasn't about me anymore. It never really was. It was about every Logan they forgot to hear, and I wasn't going to let them forget again. Tuesday, room 107, lights dim, chairs in a circle, the quiet hum of tension and unspoken things. 10 of us showed up that day. Emily, Ben, Sophia, the girl with pink headphones whose name I still didn't know. We sat. No one forced words. We never did. That was the magic of Unseen. You didn't have to bleed to be believed. People shared. One kid talked about insomnia, another about their dad leaving. Sophia read a poem about feeling like a background character in her own life. It was quiet, raw, safe, until the session ended. We always left an empty chair in the circle just in case someone new showed up late, or in case someone wanted to write instead of speak. Sometimes they left doodles, sticky notes, song lyrics, folded napkins with "Today sucked" scrawled across them. But that day someone left something different, a folded notebook page, crisp, uncreased, deliberate. I picked it up as everyone filtered out, unfolded it slowly. 4 words, written in shaky pen. I'm disappearing this Friday. I felt the floor fall away, everything blurred. My fingers clutched the paper so tight it nearly tore. No name, no handwriting I recognized. Just a date, a deadline, a cry with no voice attached. My mind raced. Who had been quiet today? Who didn't come? Who sat with their hoodie too tight around their face? I thought of Logan, how I missed the signs, how I told myself next time I'll see it. And now, it was next time. I took the note to Emily first. We sat in the stairwell outside the science wing. Her eyes scanned it. She didn't speak for a long time. Then, we have 3 days. 3 days for what I asked. To find them. To let them know we heard them. To make sure they make it to Saturday. She was right. This wasn't about rescue. This was about presence. Sometimes just showing up is enough to break a final decision. That night, I messaged every group chat from Unseen. Hey, we found a note after today's meeting. Someone's not okay. If you wrote it and you're reading this, please come Friday. Please give us that chance. Then I added, you are not a burden. You are a story still being written. And we are not done reading you. No reply. Not that night. Not the next. But I hoped. I had to. Friday came. Room 107. Rain tapping against the windows. 12 people showed up. One new face. A boy I'd never seen before. Thin. Dark hoodie. Shoulders curled like he was trying to disappear into himself. He didn't speak. Just sat in the empty chair. And placed something in the center of the circle. The note. The one that had said, I'm disappearing this Friday. But now 5 new words were written underneath. But I decided to wait. No one clapped. No one gasped. We just breathed, deeply, collectively, like we'd all been holding it in since Tuesday. I looked at him, nodded, didn't ask his name, didn't need to, because in that moment he wasn't invisible. He was here, and that was everything. The summons came Monday morning, slipped under the art room door. Official, typed, signed, to Daniel Price. RE room usage and student-led gatherings. Please report to Principal Hartman's office during lunch. I felt it in my chest before I even opened it. Something was coming. Not because we did anything wrong, but because we did something real. Room 107 had become too loud. Not with volume, but with truth. And institutions, they don't like what they can't control. I walked into her office during lunch. The air was too still, too lemon-scented. Principal Hartman didn't look up right away. She let me stand there. Wait. Power play. Classic. Then finally, Daniel, please sit. I did. She folded her hands like she was on a news segment. Let me start by saying what you've done with your peers is admirable. Uh-oh. The compliment sandwich. Here it comes. But there it is. We have rules for a reason. The gatherings in room 107 are unregistered. No staff oversight. No parent permission slips. I kept my eyes steady. No one was getting hurt, I said. We're preventing hurt. She didn't flinch, just leaned forward. That may be true, Daniel. But if something were to go wrong, the liability. Would it be better if they stayed silent? I interrupted. That threw her off. For a moment, her eyebrows twitched. With respect, I continued, they were already bleeding. Just quietly. We gave them a place to say it before they did something worse. She looked at me then, longer than most adults ever had, then said, some of the parents are concerned. About what? That their children are being exposed to dark themes. Self-harm, depression, anger. I almost laughed. So, reality, she sighed. We're not shutting you down, Daniel, but we're going to restructure. Staff advisor, pre-screen discussion topics, parental notices. It's for your protection. I stood up. No, she blinked. Excuse me. No staff member was there when Logan died. The name landed like a stone. I didn't care. No pre-screen topic saved the kid who left that note last week. And no permission slip taught me how to stay alive when everyone else looked away. I stepped toward the door, paused. Unseen isn't yours to control. It's ours. And it's staying. She didn't stop me. She didn't say another word. And for the first time, I walked out of that office without feeling like I was the one doing something wrong. Later that day, Emily taped something to the door of room 107. A sign, handwritten, bold letters. Unseen, we exist because silence hurts more. And beneath it, you can't cancel what you never cared to listen to. That afternoon, 23 students showed up. New chairs, tight circle, stories waiting to be spoken. And we listened, because no rule is stronger than a truth finally given space to breathe. I didn't apply to be graduation speaker. Someone else submitted my name, unseen. Ironically fitting. When they told me I'd been selected, Principal Hartman smiled like she wanted it to look like a win for the school. Like I was a symbol of resilience they could parade across the stage. Like they hadn't tried to sanitize the very truth that got me here. But I said yes, not because I owed them anything, but because I owed us something. The quiet ones. The ones who sit at the edge of the cafeteria. The ones who memorize exits before they memorize people's names. The ones whose presence was always felt, but never acknowledged. So on graduation day, I wore my cap and gown. Black robe, clean sneakers, a paperclip bracelet Logan once made for me tucked in my pocket. The stage was bright. The gym was packed, but I wasn't afraid of being seen anymore. I took the mic, breathed in, and spoke. Most of you don't know me, and that's okay. Because for a long time, I didn't know myself either. I was background noise, filler in your day, the kid who didn't raise his hand, the name you skimmed over in the yearbook. But invisibility doesn't mean emptiness. Quiet doesn't mean weak, and silence isn't always a choice. I paused. No one moved, not even the teachers. This school taught me a lot. How to walk faster in hallways, how to fake being okay, how to disappear without leaving. But it also taught me something else, that sometimes the smallest voice can say the loudest truth. Some of us didn't make it to this day. Some of us were buried long before the year ended in shame, in silence, in shadows. So today, I don't speak for the ones in the front row. I speak for the ones who never got a seat, The gym was silent, not heavy, not hostile, just listening, for once. To anyone who ever thought they didn't matter. You do. To anyone who ever waited for someone to notice. I see you. And to anyone who ever wondered if it gets better, it does. But only if we stop pretending it's fine when it's not. Only if we stop asking kids to be quiet just because their pain makes us uncomfortable. My hands trembled, but my voice didn't. Not this time. We survived. Not because of the system, but in spite of it. And now it's our turn to build something better. Something honest. Something human. I stepped back. Didn't wait for applause. Didn't need it. Because this speech wasn't for them. It was for every version of me still sitting in the back of the room, wondering if they'll ever be allowed to speak. And maybe, just maybe, I gave them permission. Graduation ended. The gym emptied. Caps thrown. Photos snapped. Hugs shared. But not everything ended that day. Some things began. The next morning, room 107 was still open. Emily had the key now. So did Sophia. They didn't ask permission. They didn't wait for validation. They just kept the circle going. Chairs in a circle. Lights dimmed. A whiteboard at the back now read, "Say what you couldn't say yesterday." Sometimes 5 students came, sometimes 20. One time it was just one girl. She cried. No one spoke. But someone placed a hand gently on her shoulder before she left. That was enough. I got an email 2 weeks after graduation. From Mr. Reeves. Subject line. Still listening. Body. Room 214 is now open Wednesdays. If unseen wants a second space. You built something real, Daniel. Keep going, even if you're not in the room anymore. Then came a message I didn't expect. From Principal Hartman. You challenged us in ways we didn't want to be challenged. But you were right. There are new guidelines now. A student-led mental wellness council. Your speech is being used in training. I read it twice, didn't reply. Not because I was angry, but because some acknowledgments don't need a reply. They just need to be real. Fall came. College started. New faces, new halls, new ghosts. But I still wore the paperclip bracelet in my pocket. Still carried a folded copy of that first note from room 107. I'm disappearing this Friday. But I decided to wait. Sometimes I wonder where Logan would sit if he were still here. What he'd say. What he'd write in the notebook. I think he'd be proud. And me, I don't sit in the back anymore. But I still watch. Still write. Still listen. Because there will always be someone who thinks they don't matter. And I'll be there to remind them. You are not invisible. You are not broken. You are not alone. The circle remains. Even when I'm gone. Because the voice I found, it's not just mine anymore. It belongs to everyone who thought they'd never be heard. And now, they are.